Hello everyone, I'm Jacob, Community Manager with Paradox Studio Black. For the last of our All Under Heaven pre-release dev diaries, we're covering a wide range of topics written by an even wider range of authors. We know you're eager to hear about all the new stuff, so let's get right into it. First, we'll be reading the words of Lucas, 2D art lead at Studio Black, who will bring us some insight into how the art team works. All Under Heaven has been a huge undertaking for the art team. The scale of work necessary to bring East Asia to life is much greater than anything the team has gone through before, but at the same time, they were quite excited to tackle such a fresh subject matter. Some of us were quite unfamiliar with some of the themes we were to work on, so we depended on our friendly group of beta testers, native to the regions we're portraying in All Under Heaven, to help steer us in the right direction. Shout out to our beta group. For the loading screen, our team started exploring the themes of the expansion with a few sketches. Our initial focus was on more intimate scenes, to represent the character-focused nature of Crusader Kings 3, but in a new locale. Placid scenes, poets and philosophers debating in serene natural scenery, elegant ladies floating along calm rivers. After a discussion with our game director though, we ended up going in another direction. A bustling city, showing the cosmopolitan side of China. Scholars can be seen congregating before they head to an examination. This was also preferred for having more points of interest for the player to contemplate during load times. We were also tasked with creating images to represent the turning of the dynastic cycle. For the stability era, officials line up in front of the emperor, their robe colors and their disposition in the room representing their ranks. For the tension era, a slovenly official is carried by a group of downtrodden servants. The governor has abandoned his duties to the people in favor of his own indulgences. This represents the corruption and social tension brewing in the country. For the chaotic era, the peasantry is roused to action. The cycle of corruption has culminated into an explosion of violence. Though this moment is a moment of suffering, it also represents the opportunity for the rebirth of the country through the assertive action of a more righteous ruler. To go along with these illustrations, we have the dynastic cycle wheel. This interface element spins as the political situation in the hegemony of China shifts. You can also see that the stability phase has two variants, one with a tiger to represent expansion, and another with cranes to represent advancement. Besides the Chinese dynastic cycle story event images, we also have a beautiful splash image for Japan. What we had in mind was the ascension of the first shogun to power, an event that would take place a little while after our latest starting date. This should pop up when Japan is about to go through some big transformations. While we could sometimes use generic Western backgrounds in many situations when dealing with non-Western cultures without causing too much dissonance, All Under Heaven required us to go all out and create a new version of basically every type of standard event background to properly represent an Asian context. We focused on China, but hopefully the imagery is tangential enough to pass in other nearby regions. So when your character visits a roadside inn or talks to a fellow gentleman in a garden, everything should look fitting to our new setting. We also have new background images to put our characters in the middle of the newly added natural disaster events. In total, there are over 36 new event backgrounds, not all of them pictured in the dev diary today. Political movements in China seek to steer the direction of the dynastic cycle. Players can engage in debates to further their personal position within the movement, as seen in this first image, where the characters are engaged in an intimate political setting. The second image shows the struggle of political movements in front of the emperor himself. The movement leaders present the case for their own vision of what China's future might be like. For examinations, we have the tasks to represent stewardship, martial, or learning focuses in the activity. With every new system that is introduced in the game, we add a new concern when expanding our game world. For tour arrivals, for example, we needed new imagery that would make sense in the new East Asian context. With the addition of so many new religions, cultures, and government types, we of course had to create new holding artwork to represent them and go along with our awesome new on-map assets. We also had the chance to add 3 new legacy tracks with All Under Heaven. For China, our focus was on metropolitan life, scholarly pursuits, and courtly politics. For Southeast Asia, our focus was on building temples and positioning yourself as a godlike being. For Japan, our focus was on the intersection between family, art, poetry, and martial endeavors. With All Under Heaven, we introduced another user interface skin for Crusader Kings 3. This will be used for most East Asian cultures. Additionally though, we have reworked how our UI is structured so that skins can affect a lot more than window margins and the main game HUD. Most primary UI elements such as window backgrounds and decorative patterns are now also skinnable. Players will observe when playing with our new East Asian skin that headers have a wave pattern instead of the original diamond one. The main color theme of the game, a sober dark blue, is substituted by a calming dark green. Hopefully, this will allow modders to take their game skins even further. With so many new and diverse cultures added in All Under Heaven, the way we worked with Coat of Arms just couldn't cover it anymore. We have introduced new culture-based frames for House and Dynasty Coat of Arms. There are now over 30 house frames distributed across the medieval world. We also have a huge variety of new templates for randomly generated Coat of Arms in China and Japan. Chinese coat of arms are inspired by seal stamps. We have added a new way for the coat of arms generation system to check for specific dynasty or house names, and then find a corresponding emblem to add. This way, if a character's house is Li, then there's a high likelihood that the randomly generated coat of arms will include that specific character. Besides their house characters, seal stamps can include decorative frames, shaped like beasts or objects. These seals can also share space with animals for further adornment. Here are 4 randomly generated coat of arms that are using a character's dynasty name. For Japan coat of arms, we wanted to really understand the thought process behind how caimons were created. To this end, instead of creating popular and well-known caimons in a single solid shape, we dissected them into small modular pieces. We identified different types of modules and how they interact with each other, such as small branches that can either bloom vertically or spread out radially from the center. Our 98 new emblems can then be combined across 100 different templates, creating a huge number of possible caimons. For Realm coat of arms, we have a large variety of government types at this point. This means some emblems look awkward on some government types, as the shapes of the flags would make them look offset, too big or too small. Even worse, should a character change their government type, some flags looked horrendous when transposing an emblem to a different shape. To remediate this, we have introduced scriptable scaling and offset for realm flags depending on government type. This means when designing a coat of arms, one does not need to worry about nudging elements to fit an awkwardly shaped flag. As long as your design is centered, it will be properly placed in the flag shape. In the screenshot shown now, you can see how this is clearly applied to the Ritsurio flag, moving the center of the emblem to the left to account for the indentations. Hopefully our players will have a great time creating their own coat of arms by exploring our modular emblems. The dynasty name triggers for emblems also open a lot of space for modders, should they want to connect emblems with specific names. The new flag offsets will also open a lot of space for easier coat of arms scripting and more creative flag shapes in general. Every non-culture specific men-at-arms regiment was, up to this point, represented by mostly Western-looking illustrations. With the addition of East Asia, we would have been stretching this a bit too far. So we've reworked how the men-at-arms illustrations are set up, so that it is now possible to use cultural triggers to pick which image is used for them. We also took the opportunity to make the original heavy cavalry and light cavalry be a bit more historically grounded and visually consistent with other men-at-arms types. We look forward to seeing how modders will use this new and easy way of adding cultural variations for men-at-arms. When it comes to siege weapons though, we opted to, instead of using Asian reskins, have altogether unique siege engines for Asia. These will have their own attributes, map graphics, and art. Of course, we also have unique cultural men-at-arms, such as the Hwacha, Fire Lancers, Samurai, Pestilent Warriors, and more. Now that the gunpowder innovation might drift westward through the Silk Road, we have also added new art to represent early Western handgunners. Celestial, Meritocratic, Sorio, and Ritsurio characters have estates much like administrative characters. Following up with what we started with Mongol domiciles, we have used a more Asian-inspired illustration style for these cultures. There is a set of buildings dedicated to China and another set for Japan with a small overlap. We hope to have created a large variety of quaint and quirky paintings to represent your ever-expanding family estate. There is honestly a lot more work that will have to go unmentioned here, such as many new UI elements, hundreds of icons, decision images, great project illustrations, but we hope this gives you a glimpse into what the 2D art team has been up to for All Under Heaven. Now we'll read the words of our 3D environment lead for Studio Black, who will tell us a bit more about some of the work they've put into our upcoming release. Our artists often work with references to create many of the intricate sculptures and environments that you're used to seeing for our DLCs. Up until All Under Heaven, they've mostly been working with references from the Western world, museums, libraries, archaeological sites, and so on. These were often translated to, or at least searchable, in English. However, this time we had to rely on reference libraries from Asia, and the language barrier proved to be a much bigger challenge than we had expected. Luckily for us, we were very fortunate to have a fantastic community that has helped us source and translate many of the references that we've ended up using for this expansion. Additionally, the feedback we received from our beta group has proven invaluable in iterating on our designs in order to provide the most immersive experience possible in medieval Asia. In the rest of this section, we want to take you through some of the many different pieces of content that have been worked on for this expansion. First, we'll share a glimpse of the Tang and Song Dynasty's throne room with you, a space we've carefully crafted to capture the elegance, symbolism, and atmosphere of the era. From ornate architectural elements to subtle decorative details, this room is the result of close collaboration between the team and our dedicated beta testers. Their feedback, particularly in research and historical reference gathering, was instrumental in shaping the final design. While the throne room went through many iterations, each step helped us get closer to the authentic look and feel we were aiming for. Early on, we faced challenges due to a lack of accurate references, and our first version, created before the beta program, ended up drawing more from the Ming Dynasty than we intended. Thanks to our community's insight, we identified the historical mismatches and made the decision to rework the scene almost entirely. The result is a throne room we're incredibly proud of, one that feels richly rooted in the Tang and Song Dynasty's visual identity. It was a big undertaking, but absolutely worth it to bring this important piece of history to life with the care and accuracy it deserves. There are still a few leftover elements, like the wooden screen, that haven't been fully updated yet. Consider them historical Easter eggs, or reminders of how far the room has come. Early previews of this throne room from earlier dev diaries generated even more community feedback, however, saying that our version was too austere. We've made some tweaks to the throne room as a result. The updated throne room will be available in a post-release update after All Under Heaven releases. For now, here's a quick look at the updated version. For this throne room, we gathered references from a wide range of sources, including online museum collections, historical texts, and even Chinese films and TV series to help establish the mood and atmosphere. And of course, our community helped out a ton. We're actually quite fond of the first iteration of the Chinese throne room, and we've been toying with the idea of bringing it back someday as an optional variant, so if that's something you'd like to see, then please let us know. We've also added a Japanese throne room in this expansion. Some of you keen-eyed players may notice that this particular throne room is inspired by 17th century architecture. Due to limited historical references from the correct time period, we occasionally take creative liberties, but we always aim to ground those choices in reality. In this case, we drew inspiration from Nijo Castle, which technically postdates the game's time frame. We're always open to feedback from our players, so after you've gotten your hands on All Under Heaven, let us know what you'd like to see done differently in the future. Your input directly shapes our work. While it may not be 100% period accurate, we hope you'll fall in love with this throne room just as we did. Shown on screen now are some beauty shots and close-ups of the tiling materials and custom assets we created for it. As we expand into all of Asia, we knew we'd need a lot more holding models to represent the diverse architecture across the region. Thankfully, with the amazing help from both research and creation from modders Keofur and Pigu, we could make this happen. Here are some of the new special buildings you'll see on map in All Under Heaven. Bringing Chang'an to life was a complex task. As the largest city in the world for much of its history and the heart of Imperial China during the Tang Dynasty, Chang'an was a political, cultural, and economic center at the eastern end of the Silk Road. Its immense scale and global influence made it essential to capture in the game. We aimed to capture key landmarks such as Daming and Taiji palaces, the Imperial City, and both the small and giant Wild Goose Pagoda. We also wanted to portray the Silk Road passing through Jingguan Gate, the bustling eastern and western markets, and Chunming Gate, while highlighting the monumental Mingde and Dangfeng Gates. Trying to strike a balance between historical accuracy and playability, we scaled up important locations for clarity while still conveying the vast scale of this incredible city. We've also created a variety of new holding models, and shown on screen now are just a few examples of the ones you'll spot while playing in Asia. And now here are some highlights of all the new court artifacts and character props that you'll encounter in this expansion. Here we once again have to thank our beta community for helping out with picking fitting artifacts for this expansion and sending us really nice references. Shown on screen now is a Chinese armillary sphere, a Korean incense burner, and a Kagura Suzu. Shown on screen now is a selection of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean weapons, as well as a Kamai shield, a Gu Chin, a Go game, and hanging wall decorations, amongst other things. For All Under Heaven, we designed a Song Dynasty-inspired map table that reflects the aesthetics and symbolism of the period. Scattered across the table are subtle references to the four treasures of the study: the inkstone, brush, paper, and ink stick, essential on any classical scholar's desk. You'll also find Dingxing cakes, each inscribed with the phrase "certain victory." The table features various Celadon wares prized during the Song Dynasty for their jade-like color, such as a vase with a chrysanthemum floral arrangement. For this expansion, we experimented with baking the lighting directly into the assets on the map table, not only to capture subtle effects like subsurface scattering on elements like flowers and cookies, but also to achieve more detailed shadows. A welcome side effect of this approach is improved performance. By baking the lighting into a single texture rather than using multiple, we reduce the overall texture load. Now, we already had a dev diary especially dedicated to new map updates, but we've been hard at work iterating on the terrain since then. So here are a few fresh screenshots. The map will be an ongoing area of focus for us, so expect to see more exciting things happening on it in future updates. As this expansion covered many new cultures, we wanted to avoid having the Western-based animations be the default, so we added new idle animations to differentiate them. The new ones use a mix of the old system of picking new idle animations based on their traits, and the new holding who animations. There are also variations of some other animations, such as drinking. As some of our modders may have noticed, we added more joints to our character skeletons in Cons of the Steppe. In All Under Heaven, you'll see why. Because of these new joints, our sleeves will no longer ignore gravity, and as an aside, allow for longer sleeves, something much needed for the type of fashion we wanted to recreate. Of course, we also needed some new culturally appropriate curtsying animations as well. All Under Heaven has been one of our most ambitious expansions yet. It features the largest number of new assets we've ever created for a DLC, and marks our first deep dive into the fascinating region of the world we're covering. It came with its fair share of challenges, but exploring such a rich and complex historical setting has been incredibly rewarding for the entire team. We've poured a lot of passion into bringing this era to life, and we truly hope you'll love playing this expansion as much as we loved creating it. Now we'll read the words of Leon Morale and Robert Wozniak, sound designers for All Under Heaven, as they introduce us to the work they did for this expansion. Sound has the power to transport us to other places. It can evoke a sense of time, space, and history. But how do we achieve that in-game? With a lot of research. And when we say a lot, we mean it. We looked into what kinds of metals were used, what landscapes would sound like, how to accompany illustrations, and how culture itself plays a role. This time, we had to understand the many differences between cultures and make them recognizable through their sounds. Think of the hyoshigi, two wooden clappers traditionally struck together at the start of ceremonies in Japan's feudal era. Monks' chants or different bells. What does each gong mean? We can't just settle for the typical gong we hear in movies. Yes, it sounds cool, but the world of gongs is vast. From imagining how kitchens in imperial China might have sounded to the bustling life of a crossroad inn in the heart of the countryside, we design ambiances to be true to what you see on screen, but also to feel alive. Distant conversations blending with the clinking of mugs, a sudden neigh from a horse outside, a gust of wind rattling wooden shutters. Every element is placed so that, even with your eyes closed, you could picture exactly where you are. And, as always, our goal is to make you not just see the world of CK3, but to hear and feel it all around you. But it's not all about ambience, it's also about stories. There are pivotal moments in a realm's history that demand sound design to tell their tale. Whether a dynasty is solidifying, corruption is spreading, or stability reigns, audio helps convey that narrative to the player. This ties directly into what we think of as the dynasty cycle, the rise, fall, and renewal of power. Some of these moments are inherently visual. Revolutions with crowds marching through the streets, the flicker of torches raised in protest, or the heavy stillness of a ruler's court when corruption has taken hold. Chains rattling in the distance, metallic clinks that speak of oppression, the weary and subdued murmur of voices weighed down by hardship. Each element reinforces the story. Even silence becomes one of our most powerful tools. It can magnify the tension before unrest erupts, convey the suffocating atmosphere of tyranny, or highlight the weight of a ruler's unchallenged authority. Perhaps the greatest challenge for us was the shogunate. Japan's history is deeply symbolic and steeped in ritual. Take the ceremonial investiture of a shogun, where the deliberate, singular motion of drawing a katana embodies authority and solemnity. We wanted to capture that exact moment in sound. The katana, drawn in one ceremonious, deliberate gesture, producing a crisp, resonant note of steel cutting through silence. The sound had to feel dry and immediate, yet loaded with centuries of tradition, a strike that resonates with the weight of power, respect, and history. And it wasn't just the katana, we also delved into the world of Chinese gongs, each with its own distinctive pitch, resonance, and ceremonial meaning. From the deep, commanding tone of a temple gong marking a ritual start, to the brighter, sharper strikes used to punctuate announcements, we aimed to honor not just the instrument, but its cultural weight as well. Paired with proper context, these sounds become narrative moments in their own right. Musical stingers may be brief musical references, but they tell stories. In our Japanese-themed content, we looked beyond the shamisen since it didn't exist during the early centuries, and instead embraced instruments authentic to that era, such as taiko drums used for announcements and marches, and the refined court music tradition known as gagaku. Gagaku is the oldest surviving orchestral music in Japan, performed at imperial courts with a blend of wind, string, and percussion instruments. It's characterized by its serene, floating melodies and stately rhythm, often using instruments like the hichiriki, a double reed flute, ryuteki, a transverse flute, and sho, a mouth organ. Together with gentle drums and stringed instruments, gagaku invokes a sense of gravitas, ceremony, and age-old nobility. By weaving stingers inspired by this musical tradition into our audio, we capture the elegance and authority of Imperial Japan. Each short chord or flourish carrying the weight of tradition and cultural depth. So how did we make this centuries-old genre sound real in the game? The answer is simple. We have a dedicated team for it. Our team worked hand in hand to study the instruments, performance techniques, and recording approaches that would make gagaku authentic in both tone and feel. They sourced historical references, analyzed playing styles, and recreated the unique timbre of each instrument. And speaking of the people behind the music, we'll now read the words of Ernesto Lopez, audio director for Crusader Kings 3, so he can tell you how he transformed these ideas into the soundtrack you'll hear in All Under Heaven. For this expansion, we set out to create a body of music that feels varied and unified. We recorded two substantial bulks of new content. one drawing on a broad range of East Asian influences, and another built around the traditions of Imperial China. By developing them side by side, we ensured they complement each other, blending breadth and depth into a single cohesive listening experience. This resulted in over 65 minutes of fully recorded, authentic music. 22 music tracks, including a fantastic rendition of our main theme. You'll hear traditional instruments such as gusheng, erhu, koto, shakuhachi, pipa, gushin, and taiko, all performed with care and attention to cultural authenticity while maintaining the orchestral style that defines Crusader Kings 3. Every piece was written to serve the player's journey. Whether you're navigating court intrigue in China, leading armies across the steppes, trading along the Silk Road, or simply enjoying the quiet reflection of a palace garden, the music for this expansion will suit and serve all of these moments. We can't wait for you to hear all of it when All Under Heaven finally releases on October 28th. For now though, we've been playing some of this new music throughout the Dev Diary video. Additionally, there's a small collection of music tracks in the description below to serve as an appetizer. Now, this next section is covering modding written by our programmer John Zone. Unfortunately, it's very technical dense and I'm not reading all of that, so we're going to skip right over it. If you want to read more about modding support in All Under Heaven, please follow the link to the text version of this Dev Diary in the description below. Sorry, John. And finally, to wrap up this Dev Diary, let's talk about achievements. As always, we designed our achievements in a way to cover most of the critical paths for this expansion. There's plenty of fun challenges here, no matter if you choose to play in China, Japan, or Southeast Asia. It was also high time we paid service to our hasting aficionados. Yes, we've seen the threads for the people who were already talking about this run in particular. So if you want to have maximum bragging rights for being the first in your friend group to unlock all of the All Under Heaven achievements, take a close look at the list on screen and start planning your runs. Let us know in the comments what you think the most ideal playthrough is to get most of them. And that's all we have for this week. Bringing All Under Heaven to life has been an incredible undertaking for our studio, and we are beyond excited for you to finally get your hands on it when it releases next week. As always, if you want to remain up to date on everything Crusader Kings 3, then please subscribe to this channel and like the video. And of course, thank you for watching. You know, I've spent literal hours in this recording booth now for the All Under Heaven Dev Diaries. On one hand, I'm glad it's over because, my god, this is a lot of reading and I don't really have a voice suited for it. But on the other, it's been really cool seeing everybody's reactions here on YouTube and elsewhere. We won't be stopping Dev Diaries entirely, of course. We have one planned for post-release, a few weeks after All Under Heaven releases, to discuss player feedback and how we're addressing it. Aside from that, though, we will be entering a bit of a quiet period here. We'll continue reading all of the comments on all of our YouTube videos, but outside of that, if you want to stay in touch, join our forums, join our Discord server, post on social media. If you're posting online, we'll see it. This has been a fantastic expansion to work on, and I'm really excited to see what all of you think when you get to play it. Thank you for sticking around during the boring part at the end of the video. Don't tell anyone I said this, but you're my favorite viewers.